Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 329.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the CashFlow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other CashFlow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you're here today because we're going to talk about the things that really matter. What's that? You. Ha! I know. You were thinking, what exciting thing could we possibly be talking about today? Well, as you go out there to build your business to become a bigger, better, badder investor, you and I both know something. We know it instinctively. We may not know how to do it, but we know something. We know that we need to be in front of more people. And that our business needs the ability to get more people along the same lines of thinking and, more importantly, following the trains of thought that our product or service has the ability to actually solve, and we have to figure out how to do that. Well, today's guest is going to be able to help you with that. Not only has she built herself the ability to become a brand expert, if you will, but she also has the slant because she's one of us guys. She's been a real estate investor, so she knows our pain. More importantly, she can help you be able to get more of those deals, be able to be in front of more of those people, because I have with me none other than Julie Broad. There we go. And she's an Amazon #1 best-selling author and International Book Award winner, recipient of the top 20 under 40 for Vancouver Island. And as I said before, what's interesting is that she'll be able to bridge that gap. Because I know sometimes when the guest is talking, you're like, how does this apply to real estate? Well, that's not going to happen today. So let's make sure that we listen, that we take notes, and so that we can understand and take action as we hear Miss Julie Broad. Julie, you there?
I am. Thanks for having me.
You are quite welcome. I am glad that you are here. Now, this being your first time here, I tend to ask everybody, especially on their first time, the same question. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes. You know, Wonder Woman, Batman. Yes, see, she's like, uh-oh, where is this going? I love it. So, because I think entrepreneurs and superheroes have a ton of things in common. I mean, occasionally we get dressed up and we think, at least in our own mind, we're flying around and saving our customers from their own, from themselves and with our products and services, etc. And I think entrepreneurs can feel that way. Also, like superheroes, entrepreneurs have a beginning. I mean, you know, Spider-Man's story. Before he was Spider-Man, he was just Peter Parker. He was working a job trying to finish his degree. That's kind of like all he was trying to do. Yeah. So what we want to know is before the books, before, you know, helping people with their brands and influence, before even your real estate investing, before all of this stuff that you are now known for, what we want to know is, who is Julie Broad?
Oh, thank goodness. I thought you were going to ask me to name a superhero.
You got off easy this time.
I thought, who can I name? Oh, Jessica Jones. Oh, no, she's an alcoholic.
Oh, well, there it is. Go Netflix.
Exactly.
Love it.
So before all that, I was really ultimately, when I graduated university, the first job I took was a sales job, not because I was inclined towards selling at all. I'm actually a pretty high introvert.
Whoa. Hold on.
Yeah. I got to stop. Okay.
This is great. Because you said you may not know this, but you just said that word. You said the S word, sales, and somebody just like, oh man, not another salesperson. No. But then you said introvert, and I've told so many people I'm naturally an introvert, and I've had to learn to sell. So I'm really excited now. I hope everybody else is now paying attention because here's another one. This is going to be great. I am ready to go.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's good. Introverts unite here. Yeah. So
We should start a club.
I took that sales job because it was the best paying job out of university, and it came with a company car. I mean, those were pretty good selling
Makes
features
sense to me.
Yep. And so I took the job. But what I found was being an introvert, it was really, really hard. My job was working for Kimberly-Clark selling Kotex and Huggies and Kleenex. And I mean, pretty simple sales job because all the stores want to carry these number one and number two brands in every category. So I didn't really have hard selling to do, but I still had to go talk to strangers and I still had to network. And it was really challenging. And I found myself at times literally going around the circles in the stores, not speaking to anyone, just circling the shelves like over and over and over again. And sometimes I'd actually end up back in my car crying because I felt so much anxiety over the fact that I had to talk to these strangers. So how did I fix all that? Initially, I just kind of started to approach it from a different perspective. I stopped thinking about, okay, I have to get them to sign these orders. I need to get this shelf space. I need to get the end cap display. And I started to think, okay, what can I do for them to help make their job easier? How can I make them look better to their boss? And by flipping it, by going into the store, rather than thinking about myself and thinking about how I could get what I needed, I would go in and just try to chat with them to see how I could help. So I kind of turned it from selling to serving. And it put me in a much more comfortable position because I didn't feel like I had to shine the spotlight on me and what I needed. I could focus on them. And just by virtue of doing that, I started to build relationships, which ultimately led to, powerful sales results for me. And I ended up getting fast-tracked towards a management job, which I then realized I didn't want, so I quit.
Nice. I like it.
Around the same time, this is way back in 2000, I also realized at the same time as I realized I didn't want to be working hard for somebody else, I started to think, okay, what can I do? And that's where real estate came in because I looked around and I thought, I'm going to go back to school and I want my money to be working for me while I'm in school because I didn't want to graduate with nothing but debt for a second time around. And the only thing that I could think of that would work to make me money while I was in school without having to be on top of it every single day was real estate. So I took the money that I had saved aside for my master's degree and I put that into my first two properties and instead got student loans to pay for my schooling.
Whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a major mental shift right there. Did you say you took the money that you were going to use for your education and instead decided to put it into a property?
Yeah, I put it into two properties and then got student loans to pay for my schooling.
Somebody just had a heart attack when you said that. I don't know who. But okay, keep going. This is good.
Well, it was a good way to get started. So yeah, so that's kind of how I kicked off my real estate investing. And at the time, I partnered up with my boyfriend, which is not always a recommended strategy, but it worked out. We got married, and we kept going. We realized that we really, really liked real estate, and so we started trying to find strategies to do deals while I didn't have a job. I was in school. And so then that's when we really started to attract capital and raise money and do a lot of those things to keep growing our portfolio.
Excellent. I love it. Now, I have a question because you said something that I've heard a lot of people say. Do you like real estate or do you like the benefits real estate provides?
Oh, it's all about creating the life. For me, it's real estate. If it was not real estate, if it was something else, that would be totally fine. I used to think I was passionate about real estate. But I've realized over the years that, real estate is a vehicle to help us get where we want to go. And really, it's allowed us to pursue the things that we really love. My husband's now pursuing a career as an actor. And I focus a lot of my time on writing and things like that aren't always financially beneficial, but we can do that because we have a real estate portfolio that makes sure that we're taken care of.
Yes, I tried to tell people I have some expensive hobbies, chief among them RC helicopters and cameras and drones. And I'm like, the only way you can ever have time to not only buy that stuff, but use it is because you have something else that brings in income. Because I promise you, selling photos to the local newspaper, that ain't gonna do it. I've been there, I've done that already. So I love it. Now, I guess my question is, take us through this journey. You start out, it sounds like you were headed towards the corporate route, but then you said, no, I don't like that. And now, how does that lead us, from the real estate over to what you're doing today?
Yeah, I mean, nothing's a straight path for sure.
Dang it, that happened to you too?
Yeah, it's lots of twists and turns. And I mean, really, the first thing that happened was our real estate, because we did aggressively buy a lot of properties and we tried any strategy that we could to get properties, anything that would work for us to not have to qualify for financing, we tried. And as a result, we ended up with some really challenging properties. And one of them was just full of great stories, which is code for it was a real pain in my ass.
Oh, I could read the code. I know what challenging and great stories mean. I've had some.
Exactly. So, I mean, the very, very short version is we had a property manager who punched a tenant. The tenant actually died, unfortunately, and the property manager was charged with manslaughter. And as he went through this, and it was in a really rough neighborhood where nobody else would manage these properties but him. So he kept managing it because he was on house arrest, but slowly the property declined into a known crack house. And we ended up in court pleading guilty to fire code violations. And it was just it was an ongoing saga for many years, because then once it's been in the paper with all these problems, nobody's going to buy it. And we couldn't offload it. But the good of all that is these kind of stories that we had in our early days, I love to write, so I would write about them. And I started getting published all over the place, and people started approaching us saying, hey, it sounds like you've gone through some rough times, but it sounds like you know what you're doing now. Can you help me? And so I started an education and training company. So while we were also building our portfolio, I started the education and training company, which led me to teaching people initially how to invest in real estate. But over time, people also took note of the fact that I had built a very strong brand in Canada, and people were calling us not only with deals, but with money, saying, hey, listen, I don't want to do the work, but I hear that you invest in real estate. Will you take my money and put it into properties? And it sounds like it happened easily, but it took years for that to happen. But over time, people were like, okay, cool. So now you're raising millions of dollars. How did you do that? So I started to evolve into teaching and writing about influence and persuasion and raising money, especially from the side, from the slant of I'm an introvert. I'm not comfortable selling. So how do you make that phone ring so that people are calling you saying, hey, here's my money, instead of me having to call them saying, hey, can I have your money?
Yep. This is sounding very familiar, but keep going. This is good. This is good. I'm like, I know for those that are listening, they're like, they would probably be thinking that we already knew each other, or that we were doing this at the same time together, because your story and mine are lining up right here in so many ways. It's just pretty funny. So this is good. Keep going though.
Yeah, and for the record, today was the first time we've ever talked.
Yeah, I know, right? Tell them, right? They're like, what? How is that possible? Yes, because it's systematic. It's not, personality. It's so many things, but this is good. Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, really, what works is what works. And it's funny because when I've worked with people in the past, they always try to do different, like, I'll say, okay, you can try whatever you want, but here's what works. And and then, of course, they still want to go try, they still want to try raising money by a text message, which doesn't work.
Oh, God. Okay. Do we know the same people? Anyway, keep going. This is good.
So yeah, I mean, that's one of the things is if it sounds familiar, this is because this is what's tried and true. It's not because we went to some secret course that nobody else knows about and we were given the secrets. This is because this is actually what works over and over again to attract capital opportunities, good people into your life. So really, ultimately, that's how I ended up in the branding side of things, was because it was building a brand. Yeah. It was becoming that known expert that really ultimately had our phone ringing with deals and with money and all of those kind of opportunities. And I also, as I said, I like to write. So I've written several books, and those books have also helped put me in a position where I can access people that otherwise, maybe wouldn't return my calls, and gave me opportunities to speak in places that I then got more exposure. So it's all kind of part of the package and part of the journey. And that's really largely where we are now.
Yes, well, when I see, anytime I've seen individuals who have a background in real estate and now they're talking some form of marketing, branding, etc., I'm expecting a very, very similar path and pattern as to myself, because it seems to be that's what's supposed to happen. It's like we get into the situation where we're like, I would love to fill up my properties or buy more of these, so I've got to do something, and it can be one of those things that we just don't know how to do. Now, when your undergrad or master's, did they have anything to do with building a personal brand, influence, sales, any of that?
No, and that's one of the things I talk about actually quite regularly. I'm very happy I did an undergrad degree, because it's kind of that time in my life where I didn't know what I wanted to do. But my master's, honestly, to me, it was a step back. I left an income that if I would have stayed there, I could have bought more properties, and truly, because I could have qualified, I would have had some more cash to put towards them. And I gathered more debt going to school. And really, even though I actually studied real estate, I did a master's in finance and real estate. It didn't help me with being an entrepreneur. I had to go out and seek mentors.
Hold on. There's a person who needs to hear that. And I know they were washing dishes. They're on the treadmill. I want you to say that part, specifically that part about degree and how it related to you being an entrepreneur, or rather didn't.
Yeah, exactly. The master's degree, I mean, even the undergrad, it really did not help me be an entrepreneur. I had to go out and find the people who were doing what I wanted to do, pay them to learn from them. And that's where I learned sales, persuasion, even a lot of the real estate stuff that worked. I learned it from other people who were out there doing it, not from school.
Yeah. So with that being the case, I would like your take on the following statement. I tend to believe we have more of a schooling system, not an education system. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I really think that the schooling system, as you call it, is geared towards creating great employees. And it really creates, I call them corporate drones. And again, I'm coming from a master's in business perspective. So this is what they taught us. They even told us what suit color to wear. For your first interview, wear a brown suit. For your first interview, wear a navy blue suit. For the second interview, wear a brown suit. That was the kind of They're creating these perfect little corporate drones, and they prep you for the interviews so that we all say the same thing. We all do the same thing. And I mean, I'm being a little extremist here, but it's not a way to create an entrepreneur, because an entrepreneur has to do things differently. You have to take risks. You have to stand out. If all you do is fit in, you're never going to be a successful business person, because nobody's going to know who you are, and they're not going to know what value you're bringing to the world.
Indeed. Now, then you can speak very intelligently about this next question, because I know, again, there's a person listening, and you have an insight that you're coming from a perspective I can never come from. I dropped out of school. We were squatting in bank-owned property. It was a completely different, hey, let's go do real estate, than where you're coming from. So my thought process, or my question would be, because I know someone's listening, they are in that corporate environment. They do have a decent income at this moment, but yet you managed to find your superhero moment. It's that moment that I always call where the superhero realizes, hey, I have a special skill, or there's something special that I can do that can help other people. And they have to choose, am I going to use it for good or evil? And then they eventually, usually decide to use it for good. And we call those guys the heroes, or gals the heroes, and the ones that do it for evil or the villains, etc. And this same thing happens with a lot of would-be entrepreneurs. They're in this, I want to go for this new thing, but the familiar is calling me, and I understand how this world works. And it takes a certain amount of courage to say, step out on your own. You found it. And I want to know, what is the source of that courage, and how can someone else access it for themselves?
Ooh, that's tricky. I mean, for me, it was really a deep frustration. So after I did,
I just got mad and left. Yeah.
yeah, kind of. Really, I mean, at the end of the day, I after my MBA, I did take another corporate job for a while, and it was good for a period of time. And part of it was that I had this thing in my head that I had to get to a 6-figure salary. That was my goal. And a couple things happened. I hit the 6-figure salary mark, and I went, oh. This is it. Like, this is what I've been working so hard for. Crazy. And again, this is because I was setting a goal based on a financial number, not based on the life I actually wanted to live and the things I wanted to do in my day. That was kind of the trick there. But the other thing was, and it was really a pivotal moment. I had spent months working on the year-end plans or the following year's plans. I ran 3 offices across Canada for this company, and then I went to the meeting with the president. We were getting ready to present this to the board of directors. And instead of any of the stuff that was on my plan, he slid this one page across the boardroom table to me and said, here are your team's 3 goals. And underneath are the 5 ways that you're going to achieve them. And so basically he shoved me in a corner and said, here's how you're going to here's the results you need to get, but you have no control over how you're going to get them.
Wow.
And it was just in that moment where I thought, this is not what I want for my life. I want to have some control over what happens in my day. And if I screw up, I'm fine to be accountable for that. But, if you're telling me how to do something and I still screw up, that's not fair. And so I just kind of said in that moment in my head, I didn't quit in that moment, but
that would have made a good scene though. It would have made a good scene. It would have.
In my head, I was just like, I was done. And I remember walking outside the door, calling my husband, and we were newlyweds at the time. And I called him and I said that, I'm quitting. And it was just, the part of it is that he never doubted me. He just heard it in my voice and he said, okay. And I think he knew that I didn't mean I'm quitting and I'm going to go find a new job. He knew I said, I'm quitting and I'm going to make it on my own. Now, a lot of people think, oh, well, your husband probably had a job at the time. So, you guys had 2 incomes, you were supported. Well, this was 2008. And anybody in real estate should remember what 2008 meant.
They try not to. They try. They're trying not to remember that. But
never forget that. Okay, because this kind of thing, you need to remember those moments to make better decisions for the future. But at the time, my husband was a commercial mortgage broker.
Awesome.
Yeah. So there was pretty much 0 commercial deals being done, which means that when you're on commission, you're making 0 income. So for him to not freak out when I'm saying, hey, honey, I'm going to leave my 6-figure salary that we're living on, that really helped me. I had this deep belief that this is what I needed to do no matter what the timing was. And he just didn't even question me. That combination gave me the courage I needed to just leap out and go full force into further building our portfolio as well as, developing the education and training company.
Excellent. I agree. Now what? Now I'm messing with you. So here's the deal. You started your business and that's great, but now things are changing. The marketplace is changing. And more importantly, you're still looking for that thing that's going to make it, right? Here's something that I want you to realize, that I've come to realize, and I think all entrepreneurs eventually must come to grips with. The marketplace changes, your customer changes, your business changes. You have to be open to change. It's a privilege. You get to choose to change with the market, and that's okay. And if you can make that change, then, well, you never know what your life is going to look like. A few years from now, you might find yourself moving to Canada. Who knows? It could happen. Nonetheless, be open to it. Now, let's get back to the rest of the story. Speaking of your deep belief of this is what you needed to do, I think it's time we tell them what you do.
Well, it's funny because I'm in a weird spot right now where I do a variety of things, and at the same time, I'm doing nothing.
Right. I think I can relate to this.
Yeah. Largely, I've wound down the real estate education and training company in the last couple of years, and I have some great people who teach my courses across Canada. So I have very little to do with that now. And then I moved into the branding space. But with my husband pursuing a career as an actor, we've kind of discovered that despite the mass amount of filming that's going on up here in Canada, especially in Vancouver, all the parts are really, any part that really matters is getting auditioned out of LA. So we're in the process of basically winding down a lot of our Canadian business operations and moving to Los Angeles. And so I'm in a funky spot where I kind of help people with self-publishing and do a tiny bit of consulting here and there. But I'm largely just focusing on promoting my books and getting ready for the move.
You got it. Totally understood. Now, in the concept of, or under the concept of your husband as an actor, the concept of a brand still has to be there. Same thing with your courses. Same thing with, I think, anything that we're doing today. We have to take this stand and stake and kind of say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. This is what we stand against. How does someone like listening to us right now, who is either just getting started in their business or real estate, because at some point they realize, hey, I want more property. I want more stuff, but nobody knows who I am. How do I begin that process to actually intentionally build a brand that has the ability to attract the capital and help me do the business that I want to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have kind of a simple way of explaining it. I call it the brand magic formula.
Okay.
And magic is an acronym.
Oh.
And it's kind of the key elements of your brand. And so the pieces you want to think through and create. So M is for message, and this is really having a clear and consistent message and delivering it over the right mediums. And the right mediums are first of all, something that you like. I would never tell you to go on Facebook or YouTube if you hate them, but you do have to have some mediums that you're communicating with people. But you also want to make sure that the people you want to reach are out there in the mediums that you're utilizing. So if you're on Snapchat, for example, you're probably not going to raise that much money because the demographics that are on Snapchat aren't the people with the cash.
Right.
So just as an example. So that's message. A is for appearance. And it's one of those things where when I talk about appearance, I'm not saying you need to be in a suit. But, the reality
Amen. No suit.
Exactly. But at the same time, if you're going to sit across from somebody and ask them to invest in a $2.5 million deal and you're wearing sweatpants, do you think that's going to go? Like,
you'd have to have some strong branding in order to make that work.
Exactly. I mean, I love them. They're super comfortable, but I don't feel confident. And that's ultimately what it comes back to, is what you feel confident in. And so you want to dress in a way that makes you feel awesome, like the expert that you are, or that you're presenting yourself to be in those scenarios. So that's part of it. And of course, taking care of yourself allows everything to kind of shine through from the inside out. So that's a big thing too for appearance. G is Google results. And this one is something people need to pay attention to already. Everybody's Googling you. The second they know they're going to talk to you, they're going to meet you, or even after they've met you, they go into Google and they type in your name. Okay. But what's coming? Okay, go ahead.
Did you Google me?
Of course.
Of course you did. Awesome.
Did you Google me?
I did not.
Oh, hey, cool.
I just know my guy. Well, I didn't because it's not my job anymore. But the people who arrange these things, they did that. So it's not like you weren't Googled. You made it this far because whatever they saw, they liked, and ta-da, here we are. But this is interesting. I used to not give any credit to that. They just it was so. I was like, who cares what they find? And unfortunately, there are many African-American males with my name. And so police reports started coming out. And I was like, oh, this is not good. I got to do something about that. And that's kind of how I started putting stuff online, because I wanted them to find something better.
Exactly. And that's really the point that I try to make, is that one thing is that if you're not showing up, people won't be able to learn more about you. And especially when you're raising money or attracting deals, you really want people to be able to learn about you and find out more so that they call you. And when they call you, they're not asking you basic questions. They're saying, hey, listen, I like what I saw. Can I give you my money? Will you come look at my house? So the one thing I'll mention about Google, though, is that there's technology now that Apple has just bought, body language reading, facial recognition software, and Google has been working on it for their Google Glass product, where when you walk in a room, somebody can snap a photo of you and they'll be able to look up your picture online. So they won't even need to know your name. So this is something to really pay attention to.
Yeah, that's not scary at all.
It's free. It's freaky, but if you're on top of it and you're doing it now, because these things, you don't put up a website and have Google show it tomorrow. You have to send links to it. You have to do a little SEO, and it has to be around for a little while for Google to trust it. So you want to start building these things now, so that when this technology is everywhere, you're already ahead of the curve. I actually have a download, which I forgot about till right now, that people can get to kind of go through a checklist of things to do. Do you want me to share the link so they can get that?
By all means. Because now that you've mentioned it, if you don't, I'm going to get a lot of emails. So,
Exactly. So if they go to my website, havemoreinfluence.com, and then it's just / Google Game Plan. And that will get them the link to the free download, which will help them kind of figure this piece out. So that was the G in Magic. I is for I am an expert in. If you're just starting out, don't freak out that you're not an expert yet. Just pick a niche. So pick a neighborhood, pick a property type, pick a strategy, and focus. And it might feel like you're missing out on opportunities initially, but you can expand later. The more focused you are initially, the faster you can become an expert, and the faster you can become known for something. And once you're known for something, people will still talk to you about other deals and other areas and things like that. But you want to start in a niche so that you can become known faster and become that expert faster. And C is for character. Really, you want to bring your personality into everything you do, because that's what makes you unique. That's what makes you stand out. So think about your values. Think about those things that make you unique, and make sure you're bringing that into your brand.
Got it. So of those, which one do you think is the most important? No pressure.
They're all critical, because if anyone, that's why they're all there, because if any one is missing, it's not going to work out, because you could have the M, the G, the I, and the C, but if you show up in sweatpants and you haven't showered in 4 days, you're done. Wow. Right? Like
you added showered in 4 days. Yeah, that's really rough. Okay. Got it. Totally understood. So, then let me ask it differently. Which one I'm getting started today. Which one do I work on first, Julie? Come on, help me out.
Personally, I would start on what you're going to be an expert in, the value you're bringing to the table, how you're helping, the kind of tenants you want to attract, the kind of areas you want to work in, all of that kind of stuff. So I would start with the I, because everything else will kind of flow from, becoming that expert in a certain area.
Got it. Okay. Got it. So I guess the question is, when it comes down to understanding, let's just take that first one. I find that's one of the most challenging ones is the message. Like, in my head, if I'm the new guy, it's just, what is my message? I don't know. I just want to help people get to live somewhere. How does one figure out what their message would be?
Yeah. So first of all, I suspect, and I could be wrong, but I suspect that most people aren't thinking of, I just want to help people get a place to live. Initially, when they come at it, and this is why the message part is challenging, they're usually thinking, okay, I want to have, and I'll just stick with the real estate examples, but I just want to have $5,000 a month in passive income. And to do that, I need to buy 10 properties. And like, they're usually focused on themselves and their goal. And that's the tricky part, is because nobody cares about your goals. So when you're creating your message, you need to think about what's going to matter to other people. And so when you're creating your message, you want to be thinking about how you're helping those tenants, how you're helping the person whose capital you're going to use to buy the properties. Basically you're giving them the opportunity to get into real estate, an asset, cash flow backed asset. That they don't have to do the work. And there is, as much as we like to call it passive income, there's a lot of work involved with real estate investing.
Yes. You just let the cat out of the bag. Somebody was thinking, I'm doing this passive income thing and I'll never have to work again. Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Totally. So, but now let's talk from the introvert's perspective a little bit, because I know I've had my own challenges and sat in many corners of networking events. I can even relate to crying in your car, by the way. I did that for a while. I remember those days. I was going door to door selling Yellow Page ads. For those of you who actually remember what that book is, I was actually doing that, and I just couldn't get up the nerve to keep going into these businesses and keep asking them to put in ads. It was really, really challenging. Yet sales is a part of what we've got to do for our business. So for those that would call themselves or identify with that, old stranger danger and not wanting to talk to people we don't know, how do we deal with this, Julie? How do we deal with it?
Yeah, again, the two ways that I dealt with it, and it'll come back to your own personality, I think, but from my perspective, it was all about serving, not selling. So looking at the person who I'm sitting across from, thinking about how can I help them, and also recognizing that there's a whole lot of people you can't help. You're not the perfect fit to help everybody. So you got to figure out who's your ideal, in business, it's who's your ideal client. In real estate, it's who's your ideal tenant, who's your ideal investor. And you focus on working with those people only. And, if you want to help the people you can't help, have people to refer them to. But that's really number one is focus on serving and only serve the people you are a perfect fit to serve. The other piece we've already touched on it, is becoming the name people know. And that way, when you go to these networking events, it's not hard work for me anymore because I walk in the room and people come up to me. They introduce themselves to me. So I don't have to sit in the back of the room thinking about, oh my God, I got to go talk to somebody. Like I've come to this event and, I've spent my $15 to get in the door and I need to at least shake hands with one person tonight. I don't have to go through that anymore because when I walk in the room, there's always people that come up to me and they want to chat. They want to ask questions. They want to introduce me to other people. So it's so much easier, but it takes a little bit of time to get there. So the shortcut, I'll give you guys a couple hints on this, is be the person at the front of the room. So the faster you can be the person speaking at the front of the room, the faster everybody's going to want to talk to you and you're going to have the networking done for you. The other tip is in advance of any sort of event that you go to, try to find out who's going to be there. So Facebook groups, or if you're on meetup.com, just checking who's RSVP'd, and make a plan in advance to either figure out if somebody there knows that somebody there that you already know can introduce you, or just do a little research so that you find something you guys have in common and bump into them by the coffee table and say, hey, I saw you online and I noticed you also like sailing, right? And it just eases the conversation.
Wow. I couldn't have said it better myself. So let's do this. I know that a number of people have listened this far. They want to know more about everything that you're going on, and what you're doing. So what's going to be the best way for them to track you down and ask their questions, Julie?
Yep. The absolute best way is to go to my website, havemoreinfluence.com, and grab my Broad Thoughts newsletter. And you can it's got this magical button called reply. And when you hit it, this thing comes in my inbox and I'll reply to you. That's the best way. I also reply to all YouTube video comments. So I'm doing those personally. So if anybody does watch one of my YouTube videos and you reply, I sometimes will even shoot a video to answer your question.
Oh, cool. That's nice. That's also very generous of you. Now, as we wind down here, I've got a question because I'm curious to know your answer. I think I do. I have an idea of what you might say, but this I think is going to be interesting. So let's pretend for a second that, someone listening this far, they're standing in front of the superhero outfit store. They think, hey, I want to be this entrepreneur. I want to do this thing. I want to make this happen for myself. I want to be like Julie. I want to go out there and they're choosing their cape and their colors and their tights and whatnot, so that they can put on their superhero outfit. However, in the back of their mind, they have the voice. And Julie, I think you know that voice, because that voice that comes up every time we want to step into something bigger than our current place. And sometimes it tells us things like, who are we to think that you could do anything great? And for some people, they're actually related to that voice, and that could be a challenge. So my question to you is, if you knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that the person listening, standing in front of the superhero outfit store, would actually do what you suggested, and they would do so in the next 24 to 48 hours, what would you suggest they do?
Ooh, there's two things. Can I give two answers?
By all means, go for it.
Okay. So first of all is to just figure out your next step and take action. Just forget about all the things that could go wrong. Just figure out what that next step needs to be and take action, because probably the thing you're worried about isn't going to happen, but something else will. So just take action. That's the first thing. I mean, every time you're not sure, just take action. Things will sort itself out. And that's the one part. But the other part is change who you're hanging around with. It's so critical. The single biggest thing that allowed us to create success was finding masterminds and being very conscious of those messages that we're getting from friends and family, because boy, we still get them. I told you that we're planning to move to LA. And you better believe the stuff that we're getting. People have mentioned the high rate of divorce. Like, we're going to go to LA and suddenly Dave and I are going to become Brad and Angelina and fall apart, And then another person actually said, because I'm currently pregnant, about to have my first child. And there, somebody actually said, wow, it's really selfish of you to leave your parents, just as you're about to give them their first grandchild. Yeah. So, and these are people that I love. They love me. And so I have to have a great support network around me that knows what I want to achieve in life and wants to help me get there. So you must surround yourself with people who are already where you want to be, people who are going where you want to go, and have the same mindset that you want to have in your life. Because without that, you will not get where you want to go.
Wow. And well said. Now, you do know that we have like some of the worst traffic on the planet, right? I just want to make sure that you're...
I know.
I just want to make sure you do know that. I'm not saying don't come. The weather is awesome. I just wanted to make sure that no one was hiding that from you.
No, I've been there enough to know that. But the good news is most of the time I work from home, or I'll have an office that's within walking distance. So
that's exactly what we do too. That was like the strategy. If I don't have to deal with the traffic, it doesn't really matter. Except for those few times I forget and I go to lunch at the wrong time, like when everyone else goes to lunch. I'm just like, dang it, why did I do that?
But you know what? We've had the worst weather on record for the last, I don't even know how long, for the last month. So I keep looking at the LA weather and the Vancouver Island weather going, why aren't we there now?
Yeah, we do win in the weather department now. But that's really part of the reason to come out here. So good. We definitely welcome you when you get here. And what I do want to say though is thanks for being you and taking the time to invest your knowledge, your wisdom, and your magic formula with us today at the Cashflow Diary.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. I mean, today we've heard that the next step is the only step that really matters. And we know that, in fact, you already knew, but she just gave you now the permission to get rid of some friends and add some new ones, because sometimes who we're hanging out around with can influence our perspective, and it's your perspective on getting things done that I want to influence. So get on over there to havemoreinfluence.com. Make this happen. Start now, because it's the only time you and I have. It's been fun talking to you guys today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.